Kapil Gupta is a personal advisor to some of the world's most successful CEOs, professional athletes, and entertainers. And as you're about to find out, his advice is not conventional, to say the least. So, Kapil, great to be with you.
Thank you, Mo. Pleasure to be here.
You are certainly one who is as ironclad about his view of the world and life in general as anyone that I have met. So for those hearing us have this conversation for the first time, what is the most important thing that people need to know about you?
The most direct answer I can give is that my God is the truth.
Elaborate on that for me.
In every problem, in every situation, in every circumstance, in every deep life issue, there is always a truth. There are ways that you can go left or right. There are things that you can advise for and advise against. There are advantages and disadvantages, but there's always a truth. And the truth is never logistic, and the truth is never mechanical. And it isn't one decision that's more right than another decision. It is about where that decision comes from. It is the source of the decision which categorizes it as truth or not. So that is my holy grail. That is my mode of attack in all things.
So when you're sitting down and talking with someone that, and obviously the people you work with have had great achievements in life, what you've just said sounds so logical, yet seems so elusive to most of us. None of us want to think that we're not living our truth, but the truth of the matter, no pun intended, is that we're not. What are we missing?
The desire to know the truth. It isn't about a methodology. It isn't about a way. It is just that human beings generally are not interested in the truth. It doesn't motivate them. It doesn't inspire them. There is a small subset who insist upon it. And those are the ones who find it. And those are the ones who resonate with it. The rest of them simply ask for prescriptions, which I am profoundly and categorically against.
So for the majority then, what are we running away from? What are we afraid of?
I think avoidance is a very comfortable way to live. I think asking someone for the answer is a very safe way to live, which ends up being very dangerous in the end. I don't think that it really is about being afraid. I think it just comes down to DNA. And I don't mean biological DNA. I mean sensibility DNA, one's natural bent towards things. There are just those people who, for whatever inexplicable reason, are just gravitate towards wanting to know. They love to learn. They crave the knowing of the central nucleus of the matter. And I don't think that really I don't think that any conversation that stems around the masses and trying to get the masses to move is a fruitful conversation. I think it is much more about lateral moves and not vertical ones. It is difficult and almost futile to take someone or attempt to take someone who has virtually no interest in the truth at all, or only a curious sort of a passing curiosity in the truth, and try to get that person to look for the truth. that would be a vertical attempt. A lateral attempt is someone who is already world-class in what they do. And by virtue of them being world-class, they already, almost by definition, have to be outside-the-box thinkers. They tend to buck the norm. They tend to move against society. They do things their own way. And that's exactly the DNA of the person who seeks the truth. It is just that now they would be doing it in a different arena, but bringing all those resources with them. So I'm much more interested in lateral moves than I am vertical ones. So when you ask a question which says, what is everyone afraid of? The implication, the source of your question centers around the idea that we should say something in order to help the masses find what they are, what it is they're running away from. And if they discover that, then we can help them on the way to the truth. I have no interest in that. Life is very short. I am only interested in the people who are serious enough to begin with and therefore need a small catalyst to make a lateral move as opposed to a massive earthquake to make a vertical one.
So let's talk to the latter. Let's assume for a moment we're only talking to the latter. And you said something to me last week that I want to dig a little bit deeper in. You said something to the effect that if I tell somebody the how to get wherever they want to go, they'll be stuck forever. What do you mean by that?
Yes. All of society, whether it is in the whether it's in technical instruction or spiritual matters or coaching or teaching or in business or in sports, whatever it may be, everyone functions off of an unstated premise. And the reason it's unstated is that it's so accepted, it's such a given that it doesn't even need to be stated. And that is that in order for you to do X, I will teach you how to do X. Now, for some very, very basic technical things, yes, you can get away with that. But those things don't have really much artistic significance. But there's a massive problem with that. The problem is that if you teach someone how to do something, they will forever be asking you if the how that they employed is the correct how. They will always come back and ask you, was that right? Was this correct? And I didn't get it. That my how was wrong? And then you will say, well, yeah, you didn't do it quite this way. No, you were a little bit off here. As a result, it's like leading a blind man towards a tree. And he's forever dependent upon you to tell him to walk to the left or the right, and it's getting colder or warmer until he gets there. That is treating a human being like an invalid. That is so disrespectful to the artistry and the ingenuity that a human being is born with, that it basically sabotages all of his efforts, because teaching someone the how does not create art. It creates dependency.
When your best relationships come to you, your best clients, I know they're more than clients to you, but when your best relationships comes to you, what type of questions are they asking you? If they're not asking you how, what type of questions are they asking you?
They do ask how, but they very quickly learn not to.
As I did, right? I learned really quickly.
Yes, because the paradigm is so completely contrary. It is so antithetical to society that it's literally a part of the water. So, why do you ask me what kind of questions do they ask me? Why are you asking that?
Because I'm curious for two reasons. Number one, I know that anyone that you choose to work with is on a path to greatness. So there's a gap that they sense that's missing in their life, number one. And number two, I know that the quality of a person is in direct proportion to the quality of the questions he or she asks. So for those two reasons, I want to get a sense of one, what are the commonalities of some of these people that you're working with, and what are they working towards?
I think it'll be instructive to give the flavor. It isn't so much the exact questions that they ask. It is this. Here's the commonality. It is the genuine desire to know. The need to learn is something that is part and parcel with their DNA. That is one of the greatest commonalities.
Infinite learners.
Yes.
So I come
but
to
not infinite, but not infinite disciples. And let me make a distinction. The person who is an infinite disciple is the one who doesn't really want to become a master. He loves the role of disciplehood, and he doesn't necessarily love the role of disciplehood because it allows him an unending opportunity to learn. It is much more about, that's who I was meant to be. That's where I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable as this disciple where I shall remain forever. As opposed to the one who truly wants to know, he actually wants to become a master. He doesn't want to become a professional disciple.
You have developed a very unique ability to see something in people whom you work with that they don't see in themselves, which in and of itself leads to that mastery. What is that something that you see or that you look for that most of us, don't see?
Sincerity. That is the single most important element that I look for in anyone. Are they sincere? And by sincere, I don't mean if someone's a truth teller or if he tells fibs. What I mean is, by sincere, do you really, really, really genuinely want that? Or are you playing a curiosity game? I desire to work with individuals who are truly sincere, who are not looking for a tip, who aren't looking for a, quote, hack, to use modern vernacular. It is a genuine desire to say, yes, I actually genuinely want that, whatever that is.
Is that pretty easy for you to notice?
You can sense sincerity pretty quickly, yes.
And the people...
I can sense sincerity even in email.
Oh yeah, I can. Yeah, but you've developed a really great skill for that. And
I suppose. Well, I suppose you are hyper attuned precisely to those things that you look for in a laser-like fashion, right?
Sure. Are the people that you see that sincerity in, are they surprised that they haven't noticed it themselves?
They're typically surprised that they haven't been sincere enough. Typically how it goes is that they catch themselves going down the curiosity sort of game. And while there is the DNA for sincerity within them, they've lived in a society which preaches prescription for so long that they sort of, have drunk that water. And so they reflexively go down that path and begin to ask questions like, well, how should I do that? And what is the methodology of that? And then we always, and I tell them in the first session, we're going to circle back to sincerity about 5,000 times over the next however many years. And we always do. And the person always ends up saying something like, so we're right back to sincerity again, aren't we? Yes, we are. We're always going to return to sincerity, not as a prescription, but because the only reason that you don't have what you want is because you didn't really want it. The only reason that you have the things that you do is because you couldn't live without them. And the only reason that you are where you are is because somewhere within you, it is okay for you to be there.
And the quest for mastery is never ending, right? We're always in pursuit of that mastery. When do you get a sense?
I think the never-ending thing is more of a romanticized idea. I think that the person who really wants to be a master doesn't subscribe to the notion that it's never-ending. I think the one who doesn't really want it is the one who says it's never really ending because he doesn't really want that way to begin with. So the person who really wants it, he absolutely wants an endpoint. So I'll get messages on social media all the time about it's about the destination or the journey, not the destination. Mm-hmm. All these bumper sticker sayings, and like there's no genuineness behind it. It's what do you really want? It is sitting with yourself in a dark corner and saying, what do I really, really want? And the answer that comes in the first 7 seconds is never the right one. It's a cultivation. It's an exploration in order to discover that. And without discovering it, you chase ghosts.
Is there a commonality to what people want that you work with? Is it success in however way they define it?
I don't really think anybody wants success. I think everyone wants something. Whatever everyone wants is euphemistic. The professional athlete will come looking for performance. Performance is what he really wants. The CEO will come looking for peace. Peace isn't really what he really wants. The want is never stated outright. The thing that is verbalized is the masquerader of the want. The want has to be discovered. Never walks in the door.
And for those who are not going to have the privilege to work with you personally, how do they start on that discovery? If they are deadly serious about seeking that truth that you're talking about, don't give them a prescription. Give them paint a picture for me of what it takes for us to get on that path.
If you are really serious about finding the truth, you will not find it difficult to throw every book you have about self-help in the trash. You will not find it difficult to turn off the radio and to stop listening to gurus and to stop reading scriptures. You will not hesitate one bit because those things do not speak the truth. Those things speak prescription and bondage and adherence to a group. And anything at all that involves a group is false. All things arise in the individual, from the individual, by way of the individual. Group think is nonsense. Group meditation is a farce. all the things out there from meditation retreats to silent retreats, it's all a sham. These are all scams. These are all fake gurus who line the banks at Rishikesh. These are all people who raise their head and put a ponytail around it and put paint on their face to masquerade as being a guru, and they're all charlatans. If you really seek the truth, stop following anybody. Stop asking for prescriptions. The moment that you have a how, you have bondage, you have dependency, you will get nowhere. That is something that must be okay with you if you truly seek the truth.
It's okay with me. So take me on that journey. And speaking of that, what do you notice as the biggest difference between the people that you work with who get closer to that truth? Do you see something in them? Is there a before and after? They come to you today and they say, hey, I am deadly serious. I know you're no bullshit. I want to go on that path. When do you start to see a change in them?
I will tell you the honest truth. When I work with someone, I never try to produce a change. And when a change happens, and it gets back to me that some big changes happen in their life, no one is more surprised than me. Because I didn't try to make any change. All we did was look at the issues before us, dissect them, take them apart, look at what's there, and prescribe nothing. Fix nothing. You do not need to fix anything. You need to see everything. And in the seeing, in the quiet examination, the truth reveals itself. So when I hear that someone has become calm and their wife tells them that they're totally different now, or their friends tell them, how are you like this all of a sudden? And believe me, I'm very surprised because I had no strategy to create that. All things for me had happened organically. All things with every client I had ever had happened organically. They happened the way things always happened. Never by a goal, always as a side effect.
Is there one relationship that you worked with that had just astonished you at the person that individual has become as a result of your interaction?
Yeah, several.
Give me one, obviously without naming any names.
I've stopped drinking. I've stopped using substances, those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And we never really discussed that ever. I've stopped speeding on the highway. Never in my life did I discuss speeding on the highway. When I eat slowly. It seems that when I talk to someone, I'm completely and totally there now. When I give a speech, I have no idea what I'm going to say. I mean, all these things just materialize like magic.
You know, we talked about some common patterns amongst these individuals or amongst greatness in general that you're around. Are there common patterns of frustration that you find in those individuals who are, again, deadly serious about that pursuit?
Yes, following the paths that they have followed to discover peace or freedom or confidence or freedom from anxiety or whatever. The frustration is always the same. It's always, I've done all the meditations and I've done the yoga and I've tried the psychotherapy and I've read the books and I looked through the scriptures and I've followed the religion, and it didn't get me anywhere. That's a very, very common staple of frustration.
Well, it got them somewhere, right? Because they wouldn't be seeking out to you unless they've at least some level of success.
Well, when I say that they were looking at those things, they were looking at those things on a personal level. That's independent from their success in their profession. So it's always interesting that what someone does in their profession, they tend to do things in a different way, by way of prescription, when they look into a different element. For instance, you'll see someone who is a great CEO, and then they'll come over to the side of golf, for instance, and they'll take golf lessons, and the golf coach will tell them 16,000 different positions to memorize, and they'll become an invalid to memorize them when they know very well that exactly what made them great in their own profession was that they went against all teachers and all instructors. And here they are doing the exact opposite of what made them great in their own profession. So it's the same thing with something like spirituality, where they come over here and say, okay, well, in my profession, I became great. In my business, I created empires. And now I come to spirituality. Now, what are the traditions that I should go through? And that's when the floor falls out. Mm-hmm. The traditions are the meditations and the yogas and the retreats and all this nonsense, and it never gets them anywhere. So they need to bring that same outside the box, buck the trend, the hell with society, everyone is wrong, the masses are always incorrect, the prevailing dogma is always wrong. They need to bring that over here too, because that applies to everything.
How do you define success?
I think that definition game, I don't know. I mean, English, language is a fabricated creation. So to turn a word into truth, I don't think that's very fruitful.
Well, and I was going to ask you that because I noticed in the times that we were together, you're very careful with your language. You're very careful with your words. What words do you use to describe that sense of fulfillment or euphoria that you're explaining?
Yeah, that's a good question. Words. The thing about words is that they always miss. Language is a very ineffective tool for communication. It's sort of like typing on an iPhone with a swollen finger. It's very imprecise. The word gets you into the area, but it can never relate the experience.
How do you explain the experience?
You don't. You talk around it, you provide some descriptive elements of it, which I try to do with my discourses. But you can't explain the experience. You can explain things in such a way which inspires someone to go after the experience, but you can never describe to someone the taste of chocolate.
Can you at least give me a glimpse? What do your best relationship experience that's so elusive to the great majority of the world?
Ask that again.
What do the individuals you work with experience as a result of working with you that's so elusive to the majority of the world?
Honestly, there's no way I can answer that question. That's a question for them. I only know what goes out from me. I don't know how things are received on the receiving end. They would have to tell me. But I will tell you, as for the experience, I think the ultimate experience is the very thing that everyone seeks, but they don't realize that even though they do it all day long, 24/7 their whole life, and that is all human beings seek engagement. They seek immersion. They seek to be lost in whatever they do. That is the central human desire.
And I concur with that.
That is when they feel most alive.
I concur with that 100%. So for you personally, how do you know what you know? How'd you get here?
That's a very good question. My knowledge is not my own. It is just that I know the way to the well. I think that knowing the truth isn't something that you learn in a book or through some methodology or technical means. I think you receive it through some form of grace. It is somehow bestowed upon you when you demonstrate to nature or the universe or to the ether that immediately surrounds you that how genuine and how sincere your desire for that truth really is. And when whatever that force is recognizes that desire and how genuine it is, it bestows it upon you knowing that it's releasing it into safe hands.
You've said in a lot of your discourses and, you know, a lot of the interactions you've had on social media that all conflict is self-conflict, which in essence is, you know, all of it is mind-made. Give me a little bit more on that.
Whenever you fight with another, it is your own uncomfortability that you're fighting with. Such that if one was complete and totally content with himself, he could never be affected to the point of conflict. Because no matter what the other person said, if it was true, then there would be no reason to get upset. If it wasn't true, then there would be no reason to get upset. The reason that we get upset is because we internalize the negative things that are directed towards us. And as we internalize them, that creates an internal self-conflict, and that manifests itself as external conflict.
What did it take for you to kind of like get into that state of being? To live that way?
Uncompromising desire.
Do you ever get stressed?
Yeah, reactively I do, and I'll give you some examples. I'll give you probably the most readily available example to me is if I, wherever I go, I look for places to be alone. When I go to a restaurant and I see a group of 15 in one part of the restaurant, I will ask the person to seat us over there in like the back room somewhere. To me, every restaurant should have like a Siddha room or something where you go inside and there's no music and there's no people and they just close the door and you can sit quietly either by yourself or whoever you came with. The reactive sort of annoyance that I have is if you walk into a restaurant and like a band starts playing, that just kills me because it destroys my silence. And I don't know why in this society there has to be music wherever you go. I don't know why there can't be silence somewhere. There's always got to be a radio or something playing overhead. And those are the kind of things which like cut through everything and really in a reactive way get to me. And then after that, I can calm myself down, but those are the kind of things that are incompatible with my nature.
How quickly are you able to calm yourself down? Are you talking about instant?
Yeah. No. I can calm myself down instantly because I recognize that, I don't want to be in that annoyed state. That's why I said reactive. It's kind of like someone poking you in the arm with a knife. You'll react with a flinch, right? That's what I mean. If it gets too loud, I'll just leave, calm myself down is not difficult.
Do you structure your day where you have more silence than you do noise?
wherever I go, I have more silence and no noise. My house is a quiet house with TVs. Basically, we have TVs on the wall, which no longer have receivers hooked up to them. So I sent them back a couple of years ago, so we don't watch TV. I have no radio.
But what about when the boys want to play video games?
Yeah, they go play in the basement. That's fine. I don't have a problem.
So you stay away from the basement?
Yeah, I mean, if there's some video games they want to play, and I hear the video games, it doesn't bother me because it's an accepted level of noise that I'm okay with.
Tell me what the role of gratitude plays in your life.
It's a prescription.
And that's why I ask.
Yeah. I don't believe in any of those things. I don't believe in any of those things as a doing. If gratitude comes to you, if compassion comes to you, fine. If you tell someone to be gratitude, have a gratitude journal, and I just reject all those things. And if someone gets something out of it, I'm not going to argue with them. I mean, I don't care what you get, whatever. If it gives you something, then by all means, it doesn't matter what I say. But if you ask me, what do I think about gratitude? I say it's a prescription.
How about money? What's your relationship with money, and how do you see money or financial freedom with some of the people that you work with? Is there a correlation between the suffering that causes people?
I think money is a bad rap. I think it's a romanticized idea to say that wealthy people are miserable, and by implication, that those people who don't have money are happy. That's not true.
I'm glad you said that.
I don't think that money. I'm sorry?
I'm glad that you said that because I wholeheartedly believe that.
Yeah. There's wealthy people oftentimes have a guilt about having money. The society sort of looks down upon them as if they didn't deserve it, and as if they need to be more sharing and give away their money and give more to the. I reject all those ideas. I think if someone wants to give, they can give, and if they don't, that's their business. And no one has any right to ask someone to give money to anybody else. I think that's all political, and it leads to a degraded society to demand that someone give something to another. I just totally reject all those things. I don't think charity is a responsibility. I don't believe that to be the case. I believe charity is an option. And you are neither bad for not doing it, nor are you good for doing it. All things at the end of the day are done for yourself. If giving charity made you feel bad, nobody would do it. As for wealth and money itself, I think financial freedom is a big deal. And I'll also say that the only person who actually can search for truth is the one who is financially free. The one who has to feed his stomach cannot spend his life feeding his soul.
So if somebody's deadly serious, to use your words, about that pursuit of mastery, but they haven't achieved in their own terminology or definition that financial freedom, what do you tell them?
I think that's too hypothetical of a question. I think that generally people who are not financially free are working towards making more money. I think that's where their priority is, as opposed to I want to search for truth. Often, I can't say that categorically, but oftentimes it is the case that typically someone who is trying to make money and who isn't financially free, that'll be the great priority, while they have some desire for the truth that is also an interest of theirs. But it's very difficult to live in this society without money. And I think everyone realizes that no matter how much you want the truth, at the end of the day, you must put food on the table.
Yeah, amen to that. All right, two more questions for you, and I'll let you go. On your own path to mastering your truth, where are you?
You know, that's a wonderful question. I don't know quite how to answer it. All I can say is that my sincerity and desire to live a sweet spot of a life is at a fever pitch. It is to the point of absolute desperation. I do not want a single moment of the day to go by that I do not feel immersed. It is truly a desperation. I'll say that at the end of the day, it is less about where someone is on a ladder and far more about how deep he is into the rung.
And when you're at that depth that you are currently are, how do you feel inside?
I think the answer is probably not the one most will imagine that they'll hear. There's a lot of turmoil in seeking truth because you want everything now. And that dogged, unrelenting, uncompromising craving and quest leaves one always experimenting, always exploring, always dissecting. So it is a frenzy of a life in many ways. So I would say some combination of intensity and immersion.
Your latest discourse is about answers. And you have two wonderful young boys who are going to do great things in the world. If you had a group of their best friends or a group of 20 to 25 millennials that you were mentoring, what would you make sure they learned from you?
No, I wouldn't make sure they learned anything.
Come on.
I would just say that the thing that they would benefit the most from in their own life would be to allow my dogged intensity for the truth to somehow bleed into them. And the dogged intensity, the uncompromising immersion in whatever it is they want to do, I think that is the thing that would benefit them the most, by way of osmosis, much less than by way of instruction.
Well, watching you doesn't hurt either.
That's what the watching, I think, is far more impactful than it is telling.
Well, this certainly, the 35 minutes or so that we've just spent together doesn't do justice to the impact that you have on everybody that you're around. I hope that you and I can build on this conversation. And for those listening to you for the first time, what is the best way for them to stay up to date on what you do, the great writing that you do? And, I know there's another book that's coming soon, so tell them how to find you.
The website is